Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, teachers, parents, and students from around the world, Jay and Nicole's Learning Lab has a special main event today. In the red corner, please welcome the one, the only, Teacher Nash, a solar teacherpreneur with a background in psychology.
Thank you
Well,
so much for having me. Thank you for having
Glad
me.
to have you.
well, thank you, Teacher Nash. We're so excited to have you here today. And today we're going to be working off of our myth all children learn the same way. It's just about paying attention and doing the work. Oh, wow. What are your thoughts on this myth we have?
Now, I definitely like to debunk this myth. As far as I'm concerned, children have different learning preferences, right? So we have visual, we have auditory, we have kinesthetic, and beyond. And all of these shape how kids process information and how they absorb it as well. And I think understanding and adapting to these styles can greatly improve overall engagement and success.
I could not agree with you more. I think just putting everybody into this one box that we all learn exactly the same way, no deviation at all. I think actually that's probably why a lot of students have issues in the regular classroom, is we all try to teach them the
Correct.
same way, like in public
Yeah.
schools, right? Even private
Yeah.
schools.
That the cookie cutter formula just isn't ideal at all. Yeah.
And that's where the solo teacher comes from, right? So, can you
So,
Indeed.
tell us a bit about your journey as a teacherpreneur, like your background and how you
Sure.
came to this?
So, absolutely. My journey as a solo teacherpreneur basically started with a passion for teaching, a background in psychology, all of which helped me to deeply understand how people learn. So, together with a degree in English, 6 years of speech and drama training, and extensive experience teaching both online and in the classroom, I've basically tailored my approach to suit individual learning styles, which has shown and definitely demonstrated a big difference in my students' overall confidence and success. And as far as the psychology background that I have, I would say it has been instrumental in understanding how students learn best. And I'm excited to share these insights with your audience.
sure. Now, was there a moment like where that kind of solidified the importance of personalized learning for you? Was there a moment, any specific moment, or just kind of you understood it and grasped it over a period of time?
I think as a result of my experience and history with kids, I mean, I was entertaining children as a child myself from a young age. I've learned to see what engages children, what draws their attention and their focus and keeps them engaged. And I think if kids aren't engaged, they're not really learning ultimately as best as they should. And there are ways to extract that from them and get a better performance out of them. But it does take time, experience, intuition, as well as obviously some training and educational background to identify these. But then one also needs the material and resources to be able to adapt and cater to them. And I think the two together are the ultimate formula to get the best out of your students.
That's
Okay.
good. That's really good. Well,
Thank you.
um, so how would you explain this to parents? Because I know a lot of parents they struggle where you've got one child that's an extreme extrovert and one that's maybe an introvert, right? So very different children, yet they try to use the same approach to their learning, even at home. How do you explain that to parents, do you think? What's the best way a teacher could help explain that?
I think is essentially parents need to look for certain signs that children have that would indicate their preferred learning style, as well as their personality and different characteristics that that are part of their makeup. And I think they need to look at what their child is drawn to. Are they, for example, if they're a visual learner, are they drawn? They would be drawn, usually speaking, to pictures, diagrams, videos They might recall information better when it's visually organized. If their child is an auditory learner, they might tend to talk through problems, enjoy listening to stories or songs, or repeat instructions aloud to remember them. And if they're kinesthetic, they would gravitate towards hands-on activities like building, acting, physically moving around. So, I mean, parents generally are need to be observant to look out for those different signs within their child and try to find teachers or resources that can adapt accordingly to their child's specific needs.
Now, is it possible that a child, probably like a younger child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, starts out more as a kinesthetic learner, and then as they get older, they change to a more of an audible or visual learner? Is that something that you've seen
Oh yeah.
happen?
Absolutely. And many children also display a mix of learning styles, which is perfectly normal as well.
Right.
So, in those cases, parents can rotate between activities. For example, what works best, create blended activities like a storybook with interactive elements or a rhythm-based game or things like that. But I think where it might be also difficult for parents or teachers is you need to be able to find an educator who is also able to pick up on those cues and
Right.
adapt accordingly and provide what is needed for that specific child. And that is a challenge. But that's where educators like ourselves come in. And we are tailored and experienced to try to adapt to that. So I think that's
Yeah.
key as well.
I would say I'm probably more of a visual and an auditory teacher than a kinesthetic. Um, probably,
Got it.
probably. Just
Some
my
of our
gut.
parents who are listening actually might not quite understand what a kinesthetic learning style is. I mean, obviously audio, hearing, visual, seeing, but would you be able to explain what that is?
Okay, so kinesthetic learners basically need hands-on kind of activities. For example, acting out a story, role playing, building projects, and this is how they would absorb and learn information. For example, you could teach them through cooking or gardening or a skill or something where they can physically get involved with their body and participate actively and not just sitting and listening to a teacher in a classroom.
Very good. My son was like that when we homeschooled. For him, what was it? Division. Division was so difficult for him. So I gave him a cooking class and I had him divide off, oh, we're only going to make a quarter of the recipe. We're only going to make half of the recipe. And
Clever.
so he had to divide all of the ingredients. It worked great because he could hold the ingredients and make half of them or a
Right.
quarter.
Clever.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but this would be a
Yeah.
challenge for an online teacher. So how would an online teacher be able to adapt? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, basically, I use a style of blended learning. I have various resources at my disposal that I've carefully curated and put together to adapt. First, I would try to pick up on the cues on what it is that the child responds to and what their preferences are and what gets the most out of them in the classroom. And then adapt the material accordingly based on my own personal resources. And if I don't have them, I will try and source them and figure out the best individual case for that student and stick with it until as long as it works. And sometimes it doesn't, and the child changes and they get bored or they need something new, and then mix it up a bit. Keep it interesting, keep them engaged, learning, and also having fun, because that's important. Otherwise kids switch off, they disengage, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
it's
Got
just
to give
going in the
them.
one ear out the other you know
What
We've
kind of
all seen the
cues do you look
glaze.
for?
yeah.
Yeah. What kind of cues do you look for?
Well, basically, sometimes if I'm not perhaps sure, like maybe a student is new or I haven't had
Mhm.
time to adapt or get to know them, I would try different material with them at first and see what they respond best to. And do a trial and error type situation. And then, pick up based on those cues and then adapt accordingly. But that does also come with experience, intuition,
Sure.
understanding and being sympathetic and empathetic to the child. Sometimes it's not always about their learning style. Sometimes it's where they're at. Maybe they've had a bad day, or they're feeling down, or they're just needing to
Mhm.
be heard and acknowledged. And if you just set aside the traditional pattern or learning uh, program you had in line for them for that day and tune in to what they're needing at that time, that's enough to connect with them and get them back in the
I have a,
classroom setting.
I have kind of an example for you. I have
Yeah.
one student that likes to take her camera in class and point it down on the desk while she points at things and opens a book for me. And she doesn't like the audible part, but she likes to point
Mm.
at things and show me books. Like if we're
Yes.
learning about animals, she'll go grab a book and
Mm.
show me the animals, but it's more like extracting words out of her mouth
Yes. Yes.
than actually getting her to talk. How would you reach how would you approach a student like this?
So, for example, I have one of the activities that I do is I call it crazy pictures. So, I would, for example, show them a picture of something very unusual or
Mhm.
crazy or strange and ask them
Okay.
to describe what they see and make a story about it for me,
Hmm.
using the characters or whatever their imagination can concoct, right? So, in this case, if they have certain toys or familiar things around them that they have an affection for, they could incorporate that into the story. So let's say they have a favorite teddy bear and maybe a favorite Harry Potter character or something.
Okay.
And I would say combine those and give me a story regarding that. And I would make
Okay.
sure that they are telling me, giving me descriptions, information, using sentence construction, and preferably also describing the emotional state and how they're feeling, so that they're learning also being using all the key blocks of building and using their sentence construction, their
Hmm.
vocab, increasing it, and just getting used to using their imagination at the same time. Because I find a
Right.
lot of students who are used to traditional learning struggle with being creative and using imagination. They almost feel uncomfortable or maybe need permission to do it. Once they start, particularly with the younger kids, they really love it and enjoy it and have fun with it. And it gets them to open up and feel more free to express themselves.
I actually agree with you a lot on that one. I have two students in particular myself, where they used to be so quiet and you could kind of almost see the inner workings in their eyes. There's a lot going on inside there. And it was almost once they had the permission to say what they wanted without repercussions, they just like poof. And boy, did they have a lot to say now. And
Yeah.
so we have this opening scene now that we do in class where they can bring 2 to 3 items max. I like around two. And they can show it to me and tell me about it and
Mm.
interact with it and how they got it and where it comes from and how much they love it. I think what's a really cool skill is that you're teaching them at the same time not just how to verbally explain things, but by incorporating the feelings of it, you're also teaching them how to express their feelings.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Something often
I
lacking in traditional classroom learning
Yeah.
I had
is
one
the.
student that used to like emojis, to use emojis to tell me how something was feeling or how she felt. She would only use emojis there, but
Oh,
it's all right.
shame.
I think
Good.
we've all had to struggle with the kinesthetic learner style. And I,
Mm,
I I think the key here is really to just be adaptable because everybody
absolutely.
has to apply it a little differently. My other student, what satisfies that need for her is um, I have to give permission to use the pen. So I purposely set up her lessons where she has to use the pen and drawing in certain areas. And I'm like, okay, now it's
Mm.
time for the pen. Are you ready? And she's like, she can't wait. She's got that pen for her tablet. She's ready to go.
I have my
Very
scribblers where I
cool.
have to disable it for them.
Oh yeah, we all have those. We all have those. I will say what's interesting, like I have a student, very few students generally volunteer to write the words they're saying unless you ask them to, or it's a writing class. I have one student that I'm quite surprised because he's not necessarily the most confident student, but he has this tendency, whatever he says, or when he's answering a question, he will write what he said as, on the board willingly. which again will give you a clue as to the kind of style that he uses, because
Mhm.
very few, as I said, volunteer. So I'm like, okay, so this is your style. And then I would incorporate that, the writing, the learning, the not just drawing, but actually writing, because spelling for a lot of kids is also a bit of a weak area. I think from what I've noticed, a lot of parents feel
Yes,
that there's not enough
especially
writing practice.
where do most of your students come from? Are they in Asia or are they elsewhere?
Predominantly Asia. Yeah,
Yeah.
predominantly Asia, I would say, combined with some in Europe.
Hmm.
I have both, mostly, I have kids and adults and even teens.
Hmm.
I have some from as far as so Asia, uh, China predominantly, and
Yeah.
then Taiwan as well. Then I also have in Europe, I have students who are Spanish, German, Portuguese, one who speaks French. I actually taught
I,
her English through French because she didn't know a word of English. She's now going to an English school next
oh, wow.
year. She's
Oh,
only been
wow.
with
Yay
me
for
for
her.
2.5 years, not even. She's now, yeah, which is quite amazing. Her English is she's just one of my proudest achievements, actually, but I can't take all the credit, of course.
I
But it
love the
helped. But yeah,
I
yeah.
love the way the Portuguese language sounds. I love it. I absolutely
Yeah,
love
it
it.
is. It is very like lyrical, isn't it? It's
Oh,
quite
it's
cool.
it's so cool. Oh yeah. See, different learning styles makes for a very interesting teaching experience as well, I think. I think it
Completely.
is what keeps the thing I love the most about having so many different students from so many different areas, backgrounds, learning styles, is because I'm not in a physical classroom with a specific school. I have more freedom to
Complete.
have the fun in class and to make it different and exciting and unique. And I think that's what a lot of the students are missing. And I think I think the services that we
Mm,
provide now, correct me if I'm wrong, I
yeah,
think our services are vital in the way that it's not just the learning, it's reigniting the interest in learning.
Mhm.
completely. The love of learning. Mm,
By learning, it doesn't have to be boring.
completely. Yes. Yeah.
What
I
are,
think.
go ahead.
Sorry,
I'm
Jay.
sorry. Go ahead.
The
Go
hard
ahead.
part, I
Come on.
think, is not always necessarily the kids, but convincing the parents of this.
Mm.
They're comfortable with that traditional formula, the kid following the textbook. When you go off plan a little bit, sometimes they might get nervous or they might have very rigid expectations. I think it is revolutionizing the way parents are open to various different methods outside of the traditional ones that they're expecting or used to, and seeing that the benefits for their child, which might not be immediate, but ultimately are effective for in the long run, and get the most out of their child by adapting to the child rather than the child having to adapt to the course all the time.
You
But
actually
again,
answered my
solo.
question.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
You
Did I
actually, no,
preempt
no, no,
that?
you answered my question. No, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
This
yeah,
is
It's
where I was
good.
hope you were going because I think parents really undervalue or underestimate the support they can get from an outside tutor online, because
Hmm.
kids are expected to adapt themselves every day, whether it's their learning style or not, to the school to pass a system. It's not even really learning, and you're learning us to master a system to beat the system to get a good grade. Whereas, and I know all of you guys personally, so I know that your teaching is very similar to mine, where it's more cognitive, it's more critical, it's more using your personal knowledge, your school knowledge, your everyday knowledge, plus what you've learned, in a book, to kind of combine it to create your own reality and answers. So
right.
it's more of a long-term learning because you're
Yes,
putting it all together in a holistic way, which is how we interact with the world. They're not taught that
yes,
at school. They're taught to read it, repeat it, read it,
right,
repeat it, but they don't
Right.
understand any of the mechanics behind it.
absolutely,
And I think that's where
Yeah.
the
absolutely.
parents get confused, is they don't realize that's what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and
They
this
don't.
this yeah, this is the danger also with going maybe with yeah, let me rephrase that. Traditional cookie cutter type companies or schools out there that are doing that. My question is, firstly, are the teachers teaching that able to be like, as you described, flexible, adaptable? Do they even have permission, firstly, to do it? And secondly, the experience to do it. Thirdly, the material or the resources or the time or freedom to do it. And this is the problem with sticking with that known formula for parents. They might feel more reassured, but are they actually going to get the best results from their kids? And that's where people like ourselves would come in. We offer above and beyond that. We can offer that, but we can do so much more. We're not
Right. Yeah.
limited.
We're not just slide presenters.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And
But
it's
there's a place for that. There is a place for
Indeed.
that.
Indeed.
my laptop is going to die.
Uh-oh. All right.
Oops.
There it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Aha, plugged in.
Woo.
No, I can't agree with that more. And I find that actually the kids really get on board very quickly, especially
Mhm.
when a parent is supportive and not interrupting. And not interrupting as in asking questions, but not understanding the process of what we're doing. They think that we have to question, answer, question, answer, question, answers. They have to get this much on a test. And
Mhm.
it's more involved than that, because if you
Yeah.
give the yeah,
A class shouldn't be an interrogation.
it
It
shouldn't.
shouldn't
Yeah.
be, and uh, that's what I've seen happen in a lot of the online schools.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
going to name any names, but I've
Mhm.
seen that happen in a lot of schools. Um, good.
No,
So
I
what,
agree.
go ahead.
No,
Go
I said
ahead.
I agree 100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if a parent is just now listening to this
Mm.
and they've never heard these terms before, what are some signs that would show them what their child's most effective learning style is?
I would say, firstly, if they're not sure, maybe is to try out a variety of different options and
Hmm.
see what their child responds to best. Because also what they think and what actually works in reality might not be the same thing. There are traditional ways to follow. Like, for example, a visual learner, you could like organize a photo album together. Auditory, you could sing songs related to a topic they're learning, uh, and act out maybe for a kinesthetic learner, a story, or building something hands-on. But to be honest, I think it should be because a lot of them have more than one learning style. I think
Right.
it's important to maybe try a mix or a blended learning approach too, so kids can become well-rounded learners while at the same time keeping the experience enjoyable and engaging simultaneously. So yeah,
Would
it's a
you
combination.
recommend, what do you think, like, because sometimes kids get stressed out when they're learning, and if they notice that the kid is getting stressed out while using one particular learning style, would you
Mm.
ignore that style completely from then on, or would you kind of bring it back every once in a while?
I think it also depends on the goal of
Okay.
that child's personal goal is. If
Hmm.
the course that you have designed is designed to get that goal from the child, but for whatever reason they're not enjoying it or responding the way they should, I think an experienced teacher would try to adapt that. So if you have the means or the experience, you can adapt the course. You can deviate, maybe integrate some other activities. Amongst it, as like
Right.
within the course itself, to break the child away from it so they don't feel, stuck in that
In a
one
box.
particular. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And there's ways to do that. Sometimes, I'll be honest, it also depends on the parents. Like if they're expecting that or they have a preference for that course, it's not always your liberty to deviate completely
Right,
to your
right, right.
discretion. So there's a lot of factors that influence that. But if you have a parent who is a more understanding and can see that the child is enjoying it or getting better results from your personal approach versus their expected or traditional approach, then very often, then that's all that you need is to really just play around, have fun, see, pick up on cues, and also don't get too, uh, don't rest on your laurels because it can change
Right.
as they age, as they grow. What appeals to them might, no longer have the same impact. So you also have to just keep tuning in, keep adapting, and the same for the parent. If they're able to. I know a lot of parents are busy and both of them work. It's not always possible, and that's what we're for.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for those wonderful insights. This has been such an amazing interview with you. I just love it. Before
Thank
we
you.
before we head off here for a second, tell us a little bit about your company and what you offer. So maybe some parents out there can, hear the difference.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, so I do have 6 years of speech and drama training, so that helps. I also do things like public speaking and presentation skills for kids to help improve their confidence and their ability to present and speak effectively, which can be used in a variety of contexts, both during childhood and as they enter the job market as adults. I teach because I have a musical background as a professional entertainer since the age of 14. Some of my lessons, which I personally created, will have music, drama, and English combined, which is quite a unique offering, I think. Then I would do for
Sure.
adults the usual, business style things, interview and CV skills, but music, songs, a lot of videos, a lot of, like, as I said, the storytelling, because I was a professional storytelling, children's storyteller, narrator, basically. So I can incorporate that too. So it's a blended approach. And again, I tailor it to each student. But yeah, and if I don't, I will find a way to do it or find the material to match that student's individual needs.
And how can parents find you?
So they can find me through my website, which is classbynash.com. I'm also
Link
available
below.
on, oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, the usual HTTPS, classbynash.com. I'm also on the traditional things like Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as Teacher Nash, and my company Class by Nash. What else? Yeah.
WeChat, I believe you're on WeChat and
Yes, of course. I'm on
Line.
WeChat. I'm online as well. Correct, correct. As Teacher Nash. I think it's TNash 007, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Well, I'll
is
definitely
my
be
We'll put
adding
those in the
those.
link. We'll put it
Thank
in.
you.
We'll put it in there. We'll put it
Thank
in.
you both.
I know for a fact that I've seen some of your classes. So I do know that your debate class and you did the one for the music. You ran that one by me as well one time before. And those were some
Correct.
very interesting classes. I think
Yeah.
people really should sign up for those, to be honest. If I was a kid,
Yeah.
I would have been like, I'm there.
The debate ones are great. They really get kids talking and teaching critical thinking skills as well. And that's quite popular. And there's not that many teachers offering it. So I'm quite proud of it. It's a course that was created and curated and put together specifically for kids. So yeah, if those parents interested, you know where to find me.
Do you ever do classes where you dissect lyrics to songs?
Funny enough, I have done something like that before.
I
Yes.
think that would
And
be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do. And then I also have questions regarding the songs after. So I'll play the song and then there will be a quiz about the words, and generally multiple choice, and they could choose which lyrics they heard or what they understood and things like that. Yes. Yeah.
Or
I've done
why
Disney
they
things
chose
as well.
music.
Yeah.
Off-topic question. I got an off-topic question for you. What do you think of the new singer from Linkin Park? If you know.
Oh my gosh, you've thrown me for a loop there. I would have to listen. Now my interest is piqued.
Well, they had Chester Bennington, who
Yes,
was
correct.
an iconic singer for metal bands. Well, they replaced him because he's no longer with us with a
Correct.
woman. I think she's
Oh.
fantastic. I think
Wow.
she's fantastic. I was just curious. That's all.
I would have to listen and comment. Watch this space. I will come back to you on that because now I have to check it out.
Now you have to check it out. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people checking it out now.
There's a plug for LinkedIn Park.
Right. Well,
As if they needed it.
Thanks, indeed.
oh my goodness. Okay. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Been
much,
awesome.
Mr. Nash, for coming on board today. I really
Thank
loved
you.
it. These were some really great insights. I think it's really valuable for parents to understand that learning style really does matter. And I think you've really helped debunk that myth that they don't all learn the same. It really is valuable to understand what your child's learning style is. And if you want them to get the most out of their lessons, find a teacher who's adaptable to that. So thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
look
Thank
forward
you
to having
both.
you
This
coming
was
back
so
on again.
Yay.
Yes, we will have you
Me
again.
too. Me too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.